Let's say that it's the middle of the day and you forgot to water your trees. Kind of like me right now. It's absolutely no problem with that as long as you get them watered. And I'm just running the water over my hand right now because I usually just leave the water in the hose. So I'll come in here and water my trees real good the first time, especially the ones that are in the pots. Not all my trees need to be watered right now, but there are a couple like this sensu here that's in the full direct sun. Needs a good watering. So I'll go ahead and water it once like this, and I'll bring you guys a little bit closer to show you guys the second pass on the watering. And how do I know if my trees need to be watered? A lot of the times I'll scratch away the surface of the soil, and if it's dry a couple inches down, that's a good indication. Another thing I do is tip the pot up like this. This is a 30-gallon pot, so it should be pretty dang heavy, really hard for me to tip over. It needs to be watered. This one right here, yep, it's real light, so I'm gonna come in here and get these ones watered. And you know, some people will water until they see the water running out of the bottom of the pots, but these trees were all freshly repotted at the beginning of summer. So I want to say that regardless of whether they were freshly potted or not, it's good to come in, not only until you see water dripping out of the bottom of the pot, but you want to make sure that it's completely saturated. So like I say, come in for a second or third pass. If your soil is well draining and well aerated, you're not going to have to worry too much about the soil staying too saturated for too long. I'm watering these trees in 85 to 90 degree Fahrenheit temperatures about once every 3 or 4 days. And they're in direct sun. They get a little bit of middle of the day shade, but for the majority of the time they're in full direct sun. So it might seem like, oh my gosh, why would you water trees for 2 minutes? But if you don't, I'm telling you, the trees probably aren't getting enough water. This is a very important thing that I like doing, is coming in. And during the summer, when it's really hot, I'll change to midday deep soaking on my trees that are in these sunlight settings, because it gives them a chance to have their pots cool off. So I'll come in here and make sure to water them in the middle of the day or the evenings, because it's when the pots get the hottest. So you'll feel the pots before you water, they're really hot. You'll feel them after you water, they cool off. So that's why I do these midday waterings. Even when I didn't forget to water my trees, I always come in for a second pass, and you can see that the water just pretty much runs right through the pots once it's hydrated. It's not going to be pooling up too much, and there's occasional spots that will bubble, especially when it got dry, so I'll come through and water it once. Here's the second time we're watering it, and if I quit watering, listen to it bubble. You can see it bubble. I don't know if you can hear it through the mic, but pretty much want to water until those air pockets are gone. Especially a tree that's been, say, in the pot for quite a long time. The interior of the root ball could get really, really dry if you forgot to water and it's really dry out, or the edges of the pot. So coming in for a third and fourth pass on the water can definitely help stop the tree from being dehydrated in any areas. So again, I'll check the pot, see if it's light. This is the bloodgood that I cut back a while ago. I didn't record a video of me cutting it back, but I cut it back pretty aggressively. It used to have a lot more growth on it, and in a previous video I showed how green it was, but I just recently moved it into the direct sun and it's turning blood red again. So you can see, not only because there's lava rock in my soil, but you can see just because it got so dry, there's a lot of spots that are gonna bubble, because as the soil dried out, it didn't stay as, the density of the soil changes as it dries out. So the less dense it gets, the more air that can move into the soil, but it's not a bad thing. It doesn't hurt the tree. It's actually good for their root systems to get air. It's just, you don't want them to dry out for too long. So now I'm just over here checking my trees that are in the shade. I do the pot tip test, where you lift it. If it's super light, needs water, they all need water. So the thing is though, is it's still actually pretty moist as I feel. Sometimes it's good, you know, even though you lift the pot and it feels dry. I'm actually gonna pull some soil out of this smoke bush here. That's actually pretty cool. Smoke bush I cut way back. I'm gonna do a video here pretty soon on cutting back trees to reset them for bonsai or just the purpose of resetting their growth. So I'm gonna make sure to scratch away at the soil on all these, check to see if they're wet. A lot of them are still pretty wet. They're over here in the shade, so they're not gonna need water. Checking on these little blood goods that I cut way back. It looks like this one's sending out a bunch of new growth, but this one, it's a little stunted. So got this coral bark over here. It's pretty cool. It's got a pretty thick trunk down here, but we're gonna be cutting this one way back and trying to do some back budding and getting this thing cut down real aggressively. So make sure you stay tuned and watch my other videos. But here I have my Arerum. See how dry this one is. Yeah, this one's feeling pretty dry, and the pot's in the direct sun here, so with it being hot and it being a little dry, I'm gonna go ahead and water it. My dancing peacock, this one's pretty dry, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab the water. Some people water in the early mornings. That's fine. I'm not trying to oversaturate my trees, and like I say, sometimes their root systems cooking in the heat can be really detrimental for the outer canopy. So you'll end up seeing a lot of leaf scorch and that sort of stuff if your pots are in a spot where they get really hot. So that's why I like coming in here and giving them a good watering. If they're in the direct sun, like the Aconitefolium here, it's always in the direct sun, so I'll come in here and give it a good water. And here I'll show you guys what I do with watering trees in the ground if you haven't been watering them in the ground, or if it's really dry out. When it comes to watering these trees here in the ground, sometimes you can just, a lot of people will lay a hose down and just let it run or let it soak, but in a situation like this where it's really dry, I like coming in here with a rain nozzle like I run, and just trying to cover the surface area as good as I can and all the areas where you feel like you have roots growing. Here we have this little flower, we've got another flower, some other flowers growing all over, and they're in just such bright hot settings. Even coming out here and watering them as much as I have been, they're still struggling. So I don't always water late in the day, but I've been busy, so sometimes you get caught up with work and other things and you forget to water. So really this is just kind of a demo on summer watering. Trees in pots, trees in the ground. You can see that the waters are running off down here. This is a spot that, I keep very regularly watered, and it just kind of goes to show how dry it is, because as soon as the sun hits, it's just so dry down underneath the ground that, like I say, even with me watering like every 3 days out here, it just gets so dry. So I'll water once how I normally do, get everything really wet, let the water run off however it runs off, and then I'll come back and I'll water everything again. So that's gonna be what I spend the rest of my evening doing, is making sure everything's watered and staying nice and cooled off in this summer heat. So thanks for tuning in. If you're having any watering troubles, or your plants are stressed out, or anything's going on with your garden or your Japanese maples or your other trees, let me know down in the comments.